Welcome to the England Rugby Pod. Thanks for downloading episode 129. One of our long-time listeners, Budgie Jointed, has asked for our England squad to face the Barbarians, and who are we to deny him? You're listening to the England Rugby Pod, the rugby podcast that believes England will win the World Cup in 2019. Hey guys, welcome back. As promised, we are here this week to discuss all things Barbars. And of course, I'm joined, as always, by Dan. Hi, mate.
Hi, mate. This is quite an interesting one because to me, this is a slightly different Barbars match to usual.
In what respect?
So I think normally the Barbars game for the England players is very much about looking at who could potentially be a future England player, who could perhaps live on this level. Whereas to me, this one is about who could make the World Cup squad.
It's kind of, almost like a pre-World Cup warm-up game.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas before it might be looking at a player like for argument's sake, this is actually a bad thing, but say, I don't know, an Ollie Forley, thinking, could he one day sit in an England shirt? Does he look like he might be able to handle it? Whereas now, although I still think he's talked about in this, it's about not whether could he one day, it's about could he
in the next 4 months.
In a couple of months, yeah.
I don't disagree with you, but just a quick caveat, guys. So the more astute of you will recall that I have mentioned that I'm going to be away, and in fact I am right now. Hopefully sitting on a beach in Portugal. But we're pre-recording this so as to ensure that we stick to our plan of bringing you an episode every week. Obviously, because it's the Barbars episode. What's going on, current events and what have you are less important. It does mean we can't cover the results of the Premiership final weekend, but we'll get back onto that once I'm back. But yes, so if anything does change as a result of things in the news, it's not that we're being dumb and not realising. It's because we have pre-recorded it, and what we're going to discuss today is based on the way things are as of right now. And right now is just after the end of the last episode you listened to. So hopefully that will explain any misunderstandings. But anyway, it doesn't change what we're here to talk about, Dan. And as mentioned, Budgie Jointed, who's written us a number of reviews and has emailed in a few times, who asked us to do this episode, and rightly so. He put together I was going to say 15, but he went full on 23. Not only that, he put together a 23 for the Barbars too, which we'll come on to at the end. But we're gonna take a look at what we would like to see.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's what we'd like to see. We realise that there's things that will change this, such as who makes the Premiership final and all that. But
but that doesn't change what we would like, even though we know we probably can't. We don't always get what we want in life.
We certainly don't.
And this may be one of those situations. But we'll take a look at what Mr. Jointed has put together, and we'll look at what we've put together, and a few comparisons in there, and just sort of discuss what we think we might see, what we hope to see on the 2nd of June, which of course we won't be doing a semi-live episode as we do for the test matches, mainly because I'm going to be at the game, so we can't. I did think about trying to contact someone at the RFU at Twickenham and see if we could find like a little media room or something where we could do like a live pod, but it seems no one wants to get back to me. Apparently we're not big fish.
I think that's probably a fair from them and our analysis that we're not big enough, so I understand that.
I don't know. Do they not know who we are?
No, they probably won't have a clue who we are, and understandably so.
Could be the issue. All right, well look, but however, we will of course bring our listeners a follow-up to that game. So we will do a review of the match. We will of course watch it. I'll be there, Dan. I'm sure you'll be paying close attention on the old TV screens. You'll probably pick up more than I will, as is often the case. And then we'll kind of summarise that game the following week. So it won't be left out, but it won't come as a live episode, unfortunately. But yes, Should we start with the? Do you want to start with the backs or the forwards?
Let's start with the forwards. And bear in mind, so it was Budgie Jointed who sent us this team. So he sent us this team a while back. So
he did, 24th of March.
If there's any injuries or things that changed since then, that's obviously not his thing. He knows a lot about his rugby, doesn't he?
He does. And just caveat, so he's done this Barbarian side, and it's awesome, and we're going to come on to that because I do like the side he's picked. We're not going to do a Barbarian side simply because as good as the one he selected is, it could be anything, couldn't it? It's an invitational. Yeah. There's been nothing, as far as I'm aware, yet regarding who's been asked to be part of that team. So to try and pick what we would want to see, I'm happy to just discuss what he would like to see, because I'd quite like to see it too. So yeah, we won't pick a Barbarian side, but we will go through Budgie's selection there.
We'll go through his selection there. Yeah, and we're all about the England anyway, aren't we? So
all about the England, that's correct. So yes, let's start with, so you've put together our team. He's put together his team, and we're going to do a comparison. So I've got his team in front of me. So props. You've both gone for, and I think rightly so, Harry Williams in one of those spots. You know, Harry Williams has been, probably still is, an England stalwart, albeit on the bench. And I guess we want to see. We haven't seen him in an England shirt for a little while. We just want to give him that run out, do we? What's the thinking behind that?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's one of those still who may on the periphery of whether he's going to be going to the World Cup. So I think that's the run out to see. Because
the World Cup's we're going to want at least 3 loose heads and 3 tight heads and 3 hookers, aren't we?
I would have thought so.
Because otherwise they're all playing every game.
Yeah, I would have thought so. I would have thought you'd need that. So I've gone some props. I've gone Harry Williams, and then I've also gone Jamal Ford-Robinson.
Oh, haven't seen him. He went to Argentina, didn't he?
I think he might have as a squad. I don't know if he got any game time.
No,
but
I think he did. I think he did play in Argentina. I don't know. I think possibly coming off the bench, so maybe he got kind of 20 minutes in one of the Test matches, which isn't enough to determine his England future. But yeah, he could well be a call up, because Eddie has clearly shown an interest in him before, and if memory serves, he didn't do anything, horrible that would suggest that Eddie had written him off. Budgie has gone with, and I don't even know who this is. This is how much I know about forwards, but Valrapava Ruskin.
So he's a good player. I'm not sure. Firstly, I must admit, I didn't realise he was English qualified, so I don't know enough about. I don't know enough about him.
I'm putting up.
I know who he is.
He sounds massive. I'm going to look at him.
Yeah.
I'm going to look at him as we're speaking, because he does sound like a big man. Russian, I suspect, or obviously not Russian because he's English. Oh well, he's not small. He is not small. 125 kilos. 1.91 m. I don't know. I can't do the conversion, but that sounds big.
1.91 m is approximately 6. I would say that's about 6'3".
Okay. So yeah, Georgia is. Look, it looks like he's born in Georgia, and we know what the Georgians are like in the scrum. So why not? But yeah, as I say, he's a Gloucester player, isn't he?
I don't know. I thought he was, but when you said that, it worried me that he wasn't.
He is, but apologies. We this isn't the first time, won't be the last time. We probably need to rattle through a fair few of these, because frankly, our knowledge of certainly the front row is pretty limited. But I think two options there in Jamal Ford-Robinson and Valrapava Ruskin that kind of give the Barbars some of what it's about, which is maybe just to kind of take a few punts.
Yeah.
Have a look at some people that probably are nowhere near being selected to go to the World Cup. Because, of course, we're not, despite what you said at the beginning, this is not going to be about picking 15 or 23 guys that all have a chance of making the World Cup. It's about having a few of them in the mix, right?
Yeah, I think so. But I think it's good to still have some options. Like look at these guys. Like if for example there's a injury nightmare in the warm-up games, could these guys step in? I think it's important to have them, even if they're thinking the reality is they're not going to go. But if suddenly there was a nightmare,
know who's at home and available for the call up if necessary. Because of course you can fly people out, can't you, in a World Cup? If you get injuries, you can send people home and fly people out. So you need to know who's available for those purposes. This is very true. Interesting one here. So at hooker, you've gone Harry Thacker.
Yes.
Budgie has gone Dylan Hartley, and the reason I think this is particularly interesting, I think Dylan Hartley is probably I think there's a big question gets answered here. I think if Dylan Hartley gets selected and obviously is the captain on the day, it shows that Eddie still sees Dylan Hartley as or certainly one of his key leaders in this World Cup squad. And I think it answers the question of, is Dylan Hartley going to go to the World Cup and play an important part? And I think if he selects him in this team, I think the answer is yes. If he doesn't select him in this, he hasn't seen him in an England shirt for God knows how long. Hartley is available now, right?
I believe so. Do you know what? I don't actually know.
I think he's back.
Hartley's got off my radar. I believe he is.
And therefore, yeah, I can't see Eddie not selecting him in this if he wants him involved in the World Cup. If he doesn't select him and he's available, that sends the message to me that Dylan Hartley's time is up.
So, but the reason I've gone Harry Thacker, and fair enough, it's his own coach, Pat Lam, who's like to say this, but as Pat Lam said about Harry Thacker's been absolutely amazing. And Pat Lam said, if he was a Kiwi, he would be on their radar. That's how good he's been. So I think Harry Thacker is someone who can't be ignored right now. The rugby he's playing, I think, is brilliant. To me, Jamie George is the starting hooker, and he's the starting hooker by a bit of a standout way. I think it's hard to sort of replace him. So that's why I've gone Harry Thacker. I actually think the way playing at the moment, to me, Harry Thacker's above Dylan Hartley in the pecking order.
Fair enough. I mean, obviously, we're going to go through 15 players rather than the full 23, but 23 will be selected for the Barbars. So there's an opportunity to see both of them, and there's no reason why in a Barbars game where it's all about getting a kind of a look at more than one player, why it doesn't need to be a kind of 20-minute changeover. They could do half a game each to give Eddie an opportunity to see a little bit more. So there are options there. But I do think, what are your thoughts on what I was saying about the Dylan Hartley question?
So I see where you're coming from. I think the fact that they've, and whether this is official or unofficial, I think they've committed to Owen Farrell as the captain. So that part perhaps has taken a bit away from Dylan Hartley thing. Not saying that he doesn't add massive value in the camp, but I think the fact that Owen Farrell's been basically said to be the World Cup captain, and the fact that Jamie George, to me, is the outstanding hooker. Dylan Hartley, I'm not sure he's on that plane.
Interesting.
I think if you go for form, the three hookers I would take at the moment, and the thing is, Dylan Hartley's such an quantity, but for me, I would go Jamie George, Luke Cowan-Dickie, and Harry Thacker.
Very interesting, Daniel. Well, we'll see if Eddie follows your lead on the 2nd of June, or if he goes down a more traditional route, because there will be the question of captaincy as well for this game. Although there are options there too. So then moving into the second row, you have gone. What have you gone? You've gone Dave Atwood and Nick Isekwe. So I think Nick Isekwe. Tick, yeah, I think we definitely, he is on the fringes already. He's not yet made it into the awesome foursome, but he's knocking at the door.
Yeah.
It's a tough door to get through because England are not short of quality in the second row. But I think it makes sense to see more of him in an England shirt. Dave Atwood obviously has been knocking at the door for some time. And who has... he's gone with Michael Rhodes.
So Michael Rhodes is back row, is he not?
This is a good question.
So Michael Rhodes is back row. To me, Michael Rhodes isn't a
I think you're right, yeah.
second row option. So he's back row, and yeah, he's been involved with the his position's flanker. He's not. I don't know if that was a mistake because he's been involved with the England squad as a back row, and he's great as a back row and a great player. But he's not a second row. I think by Budgie that may have just been a typo. Yeah.
So Dave Atwood wins.
I think so. Dave Atwood. So there are of course other options, but
there are. Well, at the end because Budgie's gone for a full 23. So I'll read out his replacements, and then obviously if there's anyone in there you think didn't think of him, then there's the option to drop them in. But let's move on to the back row then. Talking of it. He has gone with a stalwart and therefore potential captain if Dylan Hartley is not involved in Chris Robshaw.
Okay.
Possibly to... I mean, I don't... Do we think Chris Robshaw is still on the radar for the World Cup?
I think he might be still on the radar. I think Eddie does rate him a lot.
In which case his leadership obviously is valuable, and so I could see this selection for the Barbarians game.
The only thing I'd say about Chris Robshaw, how much more are we going to learn from him?
Well, we're not.
Chris Robshaw's a great player. I don't think we need to put him in that position. I think he's a known entity.
Let's not forget, like you can't just go and shove 15 unknown entities on the pitch and then expect them for it all to come together. You kind of need a little bit of a mixture in order to. And this may be where we're getting this very wrong, because he may decide he needs more of his regulars, which I would understand, in order to see how the question marks kind of perform in a group that's a possibility during a World Cup. So at the very least, I think Chris Robshaw offers, something valuable in being a known entity. And then I think both of you have gone Ben Curry as one of the other second row, one of the other back row. He's gone. You've gone 6 for Ben Curry. He's gone 7. But for now, let's not worry too much about that. 100%. We know how good Tom Curry's been. We've talked on numerous occasions about how great it would be to see both brothers, both of the twins, on the pitch together. And I'm sure when they first came on the scene, I'm sure all the chat was that Ben was the better player. I'm not sure that's the case anymore, but if they're good, if Ben is good enough to potentially be considered as good, if not better, than his brother, then he's got to be seen in an England shirt, right?
I don't think he can be as good as his brother. I don't think at the moment many, if anyone's as good as his brother. But if he's near that par, which I think he probably is, I'd love to see Ben Curry there at 6. For me, I would absolutely love to see him run out, and I think we will.
I think he's probably one. I agree. I think he's one that's got to be someone that Eddie wants to look at. You didn't go Robshaw. You went Ted Hill.
I went Ted Hill at 7 because obviously he got called up in the autumn. Ted Hill is definitely a star of the future. I'd like to see where he is now. He had that game against, I can't remember if it was against Japan or whoever it might have been against, but Ted Hill's a great player. So yeah, on the flanks I've gone Curry and Ted Hill.
Nice. Number 8. I think you're probably reaching, but we'd both quite like to see this. You've gone Don Armand.
I have gone Don Armand. My caveat to that was I don't know what's going on with Sam Simmons at the moment. So I would like to see Don Armand, but 8 had a few because there was Zach Mercer I was thinking about, there was Sam Simmons, but overall I'd like to see Don Armand. To me, Don Armand is still one of the best players in England, and I don't personally want to rule him out. I don't believe he will be picked, but
no. I mean, Budgie's gone Alex Don Brandt.
Yeah, he's a good player. He's a really good player. I just think it's a bit soon for him.
The other thing I'm just thinking is although he's a very known entity, he's kind of become a known entity at 6. Could Mark Wilson get a call up? Because Eddie wants to see a little bit more of him in the 8 shirt as a sort of an option.
No, I don't think so. I think Wilson's been good enough. He's
and possibly as well because of the way Newcastle have done and the fact they've gone down. It's another opportunity just to get him back into, get him out of that sort of funk and back into an England shirt and just,
Yeah, I arguably I don't think Mark Wilson needs to do that game.
Fair enough. Okay, well, let's move on to the backs. And we'll start at 9 and work our way up. So you've said gone Ben Spencer. He's gone Danny Care. Both are, I guess, known entities. Danny Care has been out of Eddie's eye line for a little while, but he was injured.
I think Danny Care's been playing really well as well.
He's playing well again. Obviously, we don't know yet whether he will be involved in the Premiership in the finals because Quins could well still be part of that, so that might have an impact. Likewise with Ben Spencer,
probably more likely, yeah.
So what other options are there? If both of them are potentially we can't go down that route, what do we do?
Well, I was going to say you've got Wigglesworth, but he's
likely to be involved.
He'll be likely to be involved as well. So you've got a Robson, maybe a Dan Robson. Is he back yet?
No, because I think Dan Robson it's still like an unknown illness.
No, they've given a time period. He could be back. He will be back for the World Cup if that the last time period I heard. He'll be back in time for World Cup. Who else? So to me, it has to be either Care, Spencer, Wigglesworth. I don't think Robson will be back for this game, but Care, Spencer, Wigglesworth. Ben Young's obviously out. I don't think there's a need for him. No. There's a few young ones. There's a young fellow at Exeter whose name I've completely forgot, but he's been called up for England before. He's a good player. Yeah, I don't know. I'd like to see, if Saracens don't make the final, I'd like to see Ben Spencer there.
Just to kind of have him actually play rather than just sit on the bench.
Yeah, to have him play. He's been playing really well for Saracens.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, if Ben Spencer's unavailable, Danny Care's available, would you get seeing Danny Care in there, or do you think he's too much of a known entity that Eddie doesn't need that? Or is this another example of where, having your scrum half as someone who knows the score, albeit maybe he's not number one choice at the moment, is a good thing? To me,
I wouldn't have Danny Care there because he should be in that World Cup squad. If it's a debate whether he's in the World Cup squad, then put Danny Care there because give Danny Care a chance to prove himself because I think we need to take Danny Care to the World Cup. I'm a massive fan.
Yeah, I actually think Danny Care is currently considered number 2.
I would agree with
you. But he was injured. I have a feeling, but yeah, you're right. Okay, well let's leave scrum half alone for a minute. 10 is you both feel the same way. We all feel the same way about this one. We talked about it at the beginning of the last episode. Danny Cipriani, surely. I mean, although I guess we don't want to see him because he'd got this sort of opportunity once before, didn't he? And he came out and he bossed it, and albeit England lost, and then everyone said, yeah, he's got to be part of the squad. He was part of the squad off the back of it, and then it all sort of fell apart. But we want to see Danny Cipriani back in the 10 shirt, don't we?
Yeah, I think so. To me, it was a shootout between two, either Danny Cipriani or Marcus Smith. Yeah. And Danny Cipriani, like we've said, I mean, we've exhausted this, but, player's player, in my mind, quite likely player of the season. I want to see Danny Cipriani in that 10 shirt.
I mean, Marcus Smith will be on the bench if he's not starting.
I would have thought so.
And I agree. I think Marcus Smith is, if for whatever reason Danny Cipriani is not selected, and assuming that he's available, I think Marcus Smith is probably the right call for that 10 shirt. Fine.
Yeah.
So on the wings, Again, you've both gone Denny Solomona on one wing. Makes sense. He has gone Nathan Earl, who I believe is actually injured, isn't he?
Yeah, Nathan Earl now is injured in long-term injury. At the time, he wasn't, and I fully understand that choice, and I probably would have gone the same.
However, you have gone.
I've gone Oliver Andromeda Forley.
Andromeda?
Allegedly so, according to Wikipedia. So apparently his parents wanted him to get the shit kicked out of him at school. But
he got big and yeah.
Yeah, he got big and very good at rugby, so they left him be. But yeah, Ollie Forley to me has been one of the finds of the season. He got Young Players of the Year. I think he's earned it.
Yeah, I think
I don't think he'll fight. Yeah, I don't think he'll fight his way to World Cup squad because I think we've got such good wingers
and so much strength in depth in the back three generally. But I think that's a good shout. As you say, the back three generally in England, there's an awful lot, even outside of the ones that we already consider to be the kind of the England crop. There's, you could probably pick 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 others, and they'd all do a job. So I'm okay with that. That works for me, and I think he's earned the right to put on an England shirt, albeit not for an official cap. But that's right now. That doesn't matter. So why not? Okay, centres. This is an interesting one. So he's got a bit more traditional in Lazowski 12, Joe Marchant 13. We've seen both of them. We've seen quite a bit of Alex Lazowski from a sort of trying people out perspective.
He's a good player. And he's a good player, and he's playing well for Sarries.
He is. One thing, so he's got him at 12, with Joe Marchant outside him at 13.
Yeah.
Eddie appears to have decided that the 12 shirt needs to be a big runner.
Yeah.
Having moved Farrell to 10. Or at least, just for the first half, until Ford comes on, if that is what happens. Lazowski obviously is not that. He's more of what Farrell would become.
Second ball player.
Yeah, exactly. You, on the other hand, and again caveated with depending on what happens in the playoffs, have gone with Brad Barrett.
I just think his impact for Saracens is so huge that I understood why he wasn't being considered for England anymore. He's maybe not the most skillful thing. I think Brad Barrett has been so good at playing, and I want to be careful how I word this, but at playing, let's call it the Brad Barrett form of rugby, that isn't necessarily the all singing, all dancing.
Yeah,
but
it's not always pretty.
Yeah, he's so good at that. But I think his name now must be looked at again as a potential England player. If, what was it in the Champions Cup? And I think he made 28 tackles made, missed none. Nice. And he carried the ball 20 times. I think a player like that you cannot ignore. So I'd like to see, if he's available, I'd like to see Brad Barrett back in an England top and being talked about as a potential outside chance for a World Cup, because he's not going to let you down. Let's put it that way.
Well, you say Brad Barrett and England in the same sentence, and it immediately makes you think of, I think it was against Australia, blood pouring down his face and just collision after collision, just preventing, just defensively, a wall. Not pretty in the slightest. I think pretty much every time he put in a hit, it was just a sort of, he just turned himself into a wall. It was, there was no kind of massive knocking people back in the hits. It was like, I'm just going to stand here and you're going to try and run into me and you're not going to go anywhere and I'm going to get my face smashed in, but that's okay because I'm doing it for England. Do you remember the game?
I do remember this. That's every game he plays.
Yeah.
But I do remember. I think that Brad Barrett has been hit so much that he's become so hard that it just doesn't matter anymore. I honestly think I think he's like something from the X-Men. He's just made of just pure steel. And he probably is half steel now with the amount of sort of operations he's had. The guy is the guy just will absolutely not back down to anything. Like literally, he could have a tank just driving at him, and he will try and smash it.
He'll have a go.
Yeah,
yeah. I like it. I'd like to see it. Let's give him another shot. I don't know how many caps he has. He's obviously got a few, but the way, as you say, the way he's playing, and there is a difference between club and country, and maybe it would end up being a mistake. But I think, as you say, he's probably earned the right, just with how good he's been, to have another shot at it. And leadership-wise, we know he's another leader, captain of the best team in Europe.
Exactly, and he's, like you say, he's got a few caps. He's not let England down.
Yeah.
He would not let England down. Would he offer the dynamics? Oh my God, I can't even fucking speak English right now. The dynamic
dynamism.
ability, the dynamism. That's it. Of even somebody like a Tuilagi, who's just so powerful at breaking the line, not necessarily, or even a TA. Does he have necessarily their one-off impact, their sort of their game-changing impact? Probably not. But over 80 minutes, what he can offer, I think, is phenomenal. So I'd like to see him back in the conversation.
The Chris Robshaw of the backs. Only he hasn't started to dip. He's kind of just continued to rise.
Yeah, he's gone. It's gone weird how good he's playing. Like to a point where I'm like, should somebody like test this guy to see if he's human? Like he just doesn't seem. The punishment he's willing to put his body through is absolutely immense. I'm a massive fan.
We would never have guessed, Dan. Now the other centre you've gone for is JJ, and I think this is one where we probably do need to see him back. He is back. He's playing pretty well for Bath. He used to be one of Eddie's absolute go-tos, and he hasn't had a lot of time in an England shirt because of injuries. So I think we need to see him. So I agree with you again. I think JJ for me would be a good shout for this game, and obviously being there, I'd like to see him out in an England shirt. So sorry, Budgie, we're sacking off both the centres, I'm afraid.
So Budgie picked Joe Marchant. I like, bearing in mind also he picked earlier in the season where JJ was injured and things. So yes. I have had a slightly advantage. But Joe Marchant, I think, is a great player. I just think this World Cup's a World Cup too soon, whereas I want to see JJ back in. I'd love to see JJ and Barrett play together and see how that hit. JJ Barrett and Cipriani play together. I'd love to see how that worked.
It would certainly be one to watch, and hopefully we'll get the opportunity. Finally, fullback, and this is an interesting one because you got European Player of the Year Alex Good, who a lot of people want to see in a 15 shirt. You've got Anthony Watson back from injury, not like JJ, not had a lot of game time, but was once upon a time Eddie's absolute go-to. Obviously now Eddie appears to be leaning towards Elliot Daly, but Elliot Daly's probably not going to be playing in this game. And you've gone Jason Woodward.
Yeah, who did Budgie go for?
He's gone Goody.
I think he's right. I think he's probably right. I went Jason Woodward. Jason Woodward, I think last season was better than he's been this season, but still, I think he's been injured a bit. I just kind of wanted to see another option. I actually think Budgie's right here. I think Good would be the person to play here.
And potentially, we're completely just making stuff up. But the meeting that Danny Cipriani alluded to having with Eddie Jones, as part of a small group, maybe it was saying, look, I'm going to give you guys a run out in the Barbarians game. I know it's not a full cap, but I want to see certain things, and this is what I'm looking for. Again, Alex Good is another one who may not be available because of the likelihood of Sarries being part of the playoffs. But if he is, I agree. I think he would be one definitely to see in an England shirt, and just to show that Eddie's not oblivious to what is very clearly being shoved right in his face in terms of the quality of some of the guys that haven't been given the proper chance yet. And I think he owes it to these individuals. He owes it to the team as it exists right now, and he owes it to the fans to at least say, look, I'm not blind, and yeah, fair enough. They've proven themselves worthy. So I'm going to give them a shot, and I'm going to look at them. And then, as we said in our last episode, it's then up to Eddie as the boss man to make the call about what his team will look like. But you've got to give people their chance.
Oh, that's Arch apparently barking at nothing.
He obviously agreed with me.
Yeah. He's like, come on, Ackers. Of course, that's the answer. Come on, mate.
Okay. Well, before we move on to Budgie's Barbars game, the other players that he threw in the mix as his replacements: Lewis Boyce, Jack Singleton, Will Collier, Jack Clifford, Zach Mercer, of course, who's potentially another shout at 8, starting. Dan Robson, who you've obviously mentioned, caveated with will he be back from injury. Marcus Smith, who we've talked about as, I think, on the bench if Cipriani is 10, probably starting if Cipriani's not selected at 10. And Nick Tompkins.
Yeah.
I think I quite like, when I first booked these tickets, my missus has never been to Twickers, and she's getting more and more into her rugby, so I wanted to take her, and this is one of the cheaper games.
No, whatever, mate, whatever, that's fine. I was busy that weekend.
But I contemplated asking you if you wanted to come and decided not to.
No, that makes me feel good about myself.
Someone needs to watch the game on TV, mate, and, pick up the things that you can't see live.
Yeah, because apparently you can't record TV. That's not possible these days, prick.
say it again.
What?
Anyway, and I've lost my train of thought with all your chatter. Yes, I was concerned that it was going to be one of those games where you kind of just saw a whole load of players you didn't really know anything about. It's a bit of a fun day out, but it's not really getting an opportunity to go and see England. Whereas I'm feeling a lot more like this is another warm-up game, albeit a slightly B-side warm-up game. But nevertheless, I think it will be a really interesting one if Eddie does go down the route of treating it this way.
Are you trying to piss me off?
Really hope he does.
Yeah. No, thanks for that, Judas. No, I'm with you, mate. I think this game, like we said earlier, I don't think this is like a normal Barbars match where it is about, a lot of it's about exhibition. A lot of it's, I think a lot of this is about, this has to be taken as another tool to be used for World Cup selection and World Cup preparation.
Yeah. By the way, I think tickets are still available because it's a double header. So the women are playing for the very first time. England women are playing the women's Barbars at sort of 12:30, and then the men kick off at 3:30. So it's a full day out. Both games are included in the ticket price.
I will look into that.
I believe tickets are still available, so you can look into it yourself, you lazy bastard.
I will look into it, but don't expect me to come say hi.
I don't want you to.
Oh, perfect.
My missus has specifically said, don't book the tickets at the same time because I don't want him sitting anywhere near us. Anyway, we did say we were going to go through Budgie's Barbars team, and I'm glad that we are because it's an interesting one. So, first of all, in the forwards, he's gone Joe Marler with
nice
with Tolafua and John Afoa.
Wow!
So big front row, and obviously it'd be great to see Marler. Marler's become, I don't think he'd do it, but he's become quite funny since leaving the England camp. Just with the chat, especially on like Twitter and stuff, he just doesn't care anymore. And some of the things that he says are hilarious. If you haven't listened, James Haskell has a podcast now, which is also very amusing and worth a listen. And there's a great episode with the two of them talking about the various issues they've had over the years. So I would highly recommend checking that out. But that would be cool to see Marler out there. He's gone with Luke Charteris and James Horwill in the second row.
I love Horwill.
And speaking of the Archbishop of Banterbury himself, obviously retiring at the end of this season. What an awesome! He wanted to go out post World Cup in style. It's not going to happen. Actually, what I'm talking about, he's injured. He's selected Haskell, but he's injured, and that's why he's.
How long's he injured for? I thought he was still hoping to make it back just in time. I hope Haskell, even if he's injured, I hope he's involved in that Barbar squad.
Mascot.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, team manager, like social secretary.
The thing about James Haskell, despite what people say, he'd happily go and be water boy.
Oh, of course he would. Yeah,
just to be there, pull on the shirt. But yeah, so anyway, we'll pretend that Haskell is fit as a fiddle, but not quite fit enough to play for England. And he's got Haskell, George Smith at 7, and then Jerome Kano at 8.
Wow.
So that would be a pretty interesting forward pack. In the backs, Reece Webb at 9, with Quade Cooper at 10.
Okay.
Zebo and Julian Surveyor on the wings. Francis Saley, I don't know who that is. At 12?
Yeah.
Who does he play for?
I don't know who he plays for, but I know who he is. I know the name. I can picture him.
And then Fekatoa at 13, with and I struggle to say the name, Charles
Piatow
at 15. And then replacements, Beno Abano, who I guess is not a.
I don't think he's earned a place on the. I don't think he's earned a place on the Barbar's team just yet.
Well, so Beno Abano, Dave Ward, Kieran Brooks, Donica Ryan, Stephen Luatua, Ruan Pinar, Dan Carter / Sopoanga if Carter can't be convinced, and then Jason Woodward as the final replacement. Now, just to caveat all of that, he says, I know I've missed some players, really wanted to try and get Sopoanga in there, but seeing Quade Cooper go against Sips was too much to pass up.
That's a great shout.
He says Barbar's front row replacements are fringe English boys. He thought the more English props Eddie can get a look at in one game, the better. Dave Ward pisses everyone off, so should add a bit of niggle somewhere. Plus, I'm a back like us, so his front row knowledge is limited, but clearly more superior than ours.
He knows his shit, doesn't he? This guy's switched on.
He then goes on to say, if the French are still being stupid and not picking Teddy Thomas and Vakatawa, then he'd find a spot for those two as well. He says, let me know your thoughts or any changes to the sides that you'd make. Like I said previously, I think this would make a pretty good pod listen. Hope you have enjoyed it. If you haven't already guessed, I'm Budgie Jointed. Have no idea why and don't know how to change it on iTunes. He says he also did one. He also says, did one or both of you play for East Grinstead? Might be making that up, but seem to remember it coming up on a previous pod.
I used to play for East Grinstead, yeah.
Might have been another pod, come to think of it. But
I used to play for East Grinstead under Toby Booth.
He says, if so, fuck G-Force. Does that mean something?
Yeah, G-Force of the East were the East Grinstead first team. They got sort of disbanded over sort of internal squabbles. Does he say who he plays for?
No, because he's cracking pod boys. Keep it up. He then says, P.S. How about we just keep calling me Budgie Jointed, because we do have his real name, and not revealing my real name, so my teammates don't call me King Knowles. So I may have already given away too much. They might have been able to work it out. But finally, he then sent a second email in which he said, P.P.S. Throw Woodward out and put Honey Badger on the bench.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
So
that's amazing. And Budgie Jointed, let us know who you play for. I'm guessing fuck G-Force. I'm guessing perhaps it was Heath, Horsham, something like that. But God, yeah, Honey Badger on the bench would be awesome.
Just for the post-match interview.
Yeah. Just to have him anywhere near a camera would be amazing.
Exactly. So that would be a pretty interesting Barbars. As I said, we're not going to attempt to come up with our own Barbars team because we could be here all day. Because I'm sure there's a lot of people we could do, but we really appreciate the time that you've taken, Budgie, to put that together. That's been awesome, and really it's given us everything we needed to do an entire episode. So thanks for that. It saved us a bit of time, guys. Hope that at least gives you some feeling of what we can expect or what we'd like to see in a couple of weeks' time when England take on the Barbars at Twickers on the 2nd of June. As I say, I think there are tickets still available, so you should probably check them out if you fancy getting down there. And no doubt Dan will not do that, but we'll complain about it in the next episode. We shall see. Of course. We shall see. But yeah, is there anything else that you want to add to this one, Dan?
Mate, no, only that I hope it rains in Portugal.
It's very kind of you.
You're welcome.
At the moment, I think it's 25 degrees every day for 10 days while we're there.
Damn it.
But let's just, touch wood. I hope it stays that way. Guys, sorry we couldn't bring you a live episode, so we're not obviously covering the results of the Premiership, and you all probably know what's going on now, but we will cover that once I'm back, along with the Barbarians game. And just for me to say once again, thanks so much for tuning in. If you want to get in touch, whether you want to share some ideas on future episodes, if you've got any questions for us, at ENGvBaBa's on Facebook or Twitter, or you can email us ENGlandRugbyPod@gmail.com. And if you get the opportunity to head over to iTunes, and I believe there are other places you can review, but this is the only one I really know how to use. Get over there, give us a rating, give us a review, let us know what you think. Really helps us, and keep spreading the word. We want to get as many of you tuning in as possible before the World Cup, which of course kicks off in less than 4 months, I think. So we look forward to tuning in next time.
Thanks, guys.